Hey, everybody. Welcome to Self-Publishing Podcast. Dave is searching for stuff, so it's a big mystery box. So if you really like open boxes, that's what this episode is going to be, and soon we're going to know what we're talking about today.
Well, we're going to be talking to Jim Hescet. I'm just getting his bio and everything ready. So go ahead. You guys chat it up.
Okay.
Ooh, we get to chat it up.
Chat it up. So as far as what we're talking about today, mystery box. So Sean, do you have anything cool?
Yeah, but it's a Johnny style something cool. It's just about
Mine is nothing related to, mine is purely something I saw where I said, that's cool. It won't help anybody. It's just cool.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's great. I can do this today. Mine is the our fiction slate for the next 6 months ish. I in the next couple of weeks, I'm mapping a lot of stuff out. I'm doing a lot of world building and kind of deciding what we're doing. I'm excited about all the CI projects and all the Relevant Sands projects. And I'm in a really excited, creative place, and that's fun. So I love it.
You need to say more about that, because what if Dave isn't ready yet?
I'm ready.
I have something, but all right, Dave says he's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and do my something cool. So as promised, this has nothing to do with anything. It's just literally like I was on YouTube. I was actually looking at the trailers, which were my something cool in the last show that we did. And one of the related videos, for some weird reason, was this archery video that I never watch YouTube videos. And I was just like, wow, this is fucking cool. So I made a note specifically because I was like, well, I'm supposed to be noting things that are cool. So I don't have a quick link or anything. But this dude's name is Lars Anderson, and the video is called A New Level of Archery, if you want to check this out. And it's all about this technique that, most archers keep their arrows in a quiver. And so they have to draw and fire. And then there's another way to do it where you have the arrows in...
Okay, this actually sounds really awesome.
It is. It's awesome. In your draw hand, I think. That's right. The hand you pull back with. And then they're like, well, the way that the real people used to do it, back when these were weapons of war, was in... No. Some people held it in their bow hand. They said if you hold it in your draw hand, then the dude's just boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's and he does these trick shots where the best one is where somebody shoots an arrow.
Wait, what's his name? Lars what?
Lars Anderson, Andersen. And it's called A New Level of Archery. And he's able to fire them so fast. He does all these things where jump.
Why was this a related video? Not that I'm complaining.
He'll jump off a wall and then turn around and shoot an apple out of the air. But the one I was saying where Sean interrupted me there was he has this trick shot at the end where this one dude shoots an arrow at him, and he's got his back to the guy and he turns around and shoots the arrow out of the air. It's so fucking awesome. He'll throw 3 balls in the air and knock them all out. So anyway,
since we're doing cool YouTubers, I'm going to do Dude Perfect. You ever watch those guys?
That dude is perfect.
No, it's a group of guys. It's either 2 or 3, I forget. And they make trick shots with basketballs, mostly basketballs, but frisbees or footballs. They do insane shit. My son loves them. They do insane stuff. The skill level is off the hook with these guys. You just sit there and just watch one of their videos, and 2 hours later, you'll still be watching more, just amazed by what they do.
There you go. Those are all cool things.
So today we are talking to Jim Hescet, who is a mystery noir thriller writer with a bit of snark added in. And we're going to talk about managing your time, specifically, how to have a full-time job and a toddler at home and still somehow manage to write a whole lot of words. He wrote 325,000 words in 2016. I don't know how he did it, having a job or a toddler. Either one of those would just push me out of the running there.
That is Dave's job, and he eats like a toddler.
Yes.
Happening.
So Rick has a new book that will be coming out. I believe it's called The Juggling Author in July, where he's going to that's a website. He's looking at me weird. The website's Juggling Author. I don't know what the book title is, but he could tell us, and it's all about managing the time.
Good save, Dave.
So hello.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. Long-time listener, first-time guest.
Thank you.
Hey, I have something cool.
Okay.
I thought it was rude of Dave not to ask. So thank you for sharing.
I don't like to put people on the spot, but go ahead. Since he is a listener, I should have assumed that he might have something cool. Go ahead.
So I just got it yesterday, a squatty potty. And I got to tell you,
I was thinking about the squatty potty today, of all things. When Dave
Johnny, I got it yesterday. And I got to tell you, this morning, best poop I ever had.
did you beam that into my mind? Because I was like, why the fuck am I thinking about squatty potty right now? I didn't remember the name, but I remembered what it was.
Could be.
My wife got me one. Quote, she got me
Are
one.
we really
That's a
talking
gift.
about the
That's the
squatty
gift
potty?
that says luck.
Hey, we're talking about saving time.
I would like to know how,
saves time.
I would like to know how 3 out of the 4 people in here have something to say about squatty potty.
I don't know. It was the most random thing. I just thought, and then I dismissed it right away. It's not
Have
like
you ever used one?
Mhm.
No? Oh, Sean, no.
No, but I would.
I'm surprised.
some people say this show is
Why are you surprised?
Well, you're an efficiency master and you like bubble baths, so I figured squatty potty's probably
what is a bubble bath?
your wheelhouse.
Squatty potty.
I don't know that it's an efficiency thing, isn't it?
Is it efficient to poop squatting?
Squatty potty? Yeah, it helps you go a lot quicker.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
don't
spent
have-
less time.
Problem. I sit down, it comes out, it's in a snake. I flush. Like,
Well,
I don't know. Like,
toilet
I'm
desk.
not a magazine reader. Like, it takes me 2 minutes. I don't understand.
Yes. This is starting off as a great show.
This is
There
a
you go. Here
classic
come those
already.
reviews.
So let me pull it back in.
So you ruined the show already. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I thought it was important. I wanted to bring it up.
No, I think he's bringing his A game. That's what I think is
I think
happening.
that's clearly what it is. You're our people.
So my name is Jim Hescet, and yeah, I'm the author of the book, The Juggling Author, How to Write 4 Books a Year While Balancing Family, Friends, and a Full-Time Job.
What if you had
And-
no friends?
Yeah.
Well, I think it would probably still work. I mean, I have a dog that I walk twice a day, and he's my friend.
Okay.
But so in 2016, yeah, I wrote I published 325,000 words, which was 5 novels, a short story, and a collaborative novel with Jay Thorne. And I wrote all those while working
Is there
40 hours a
anyone that
week.
Jay Thorne did not collaborate with last year?
Apparently not. He's working his way around.
I'm offended that he hasn't asked me yet.
Maybe you just haven't asked him politely enough, Dave.
Yeah.
He
I don't
just
know.
knows you'll say no.
Well, he probably knows that I barely have time to write our books.
I think anybody who listens to this show would not ask you, Dave.
So basically, I developed a system, and you can have it for only $97. That allows me to write, publish a book in less than 3 months, while taking about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day is about as much free time as I get. So yeah, about
super efficient.
12 hours a week. Because yeah, I've got the job, I've got the toddler, and I've got the dog that I got to walk a couple times a day, plus other family responsibilities. And so I basically had to figure out a way that, because I don't have 8 free hours a day that I can just sit down and write fiction. I get a very limited amount of time, and it's often broken up into multiple chunks throughout the day. So I had to figure out a way how to be incredibly efficient and get it all done.
So is that mostly in your drafting process? Is it that you're really prepared when you sit down to write? Is that you've nailed your editing cycle? Like, what is the secret sauce there?
Cocaine?
Well, it's well, no
Locking the children
cocaine
in the basement. Squatty potty.
Well, Sean, it's a little bit of all those things. One of the main things that I do is I figured out that in first draft, I write really short. In a book that will be like 70,000 words, and that first draft is about 30 to 35,000 words.
Oh, wow. That is short.
And because basically my first drafts are like really long outlines, because I work from beats. I mean, I've done hardcore outlining and I've done pantsing, and so I landed somewhere in the middle, kind of like what you guys do, with beats that give me a schematic of where I need to go, but I leave myself a little bit of creative freedom. And then in first draft, what I do is the point is to get it all out of my head onto the page as quickly as possible, because I'm usually, as I'm writing, I'm thinking like 6 to 10 paragraphs ahead. And so it's all about getting it onto the page where it's a lump of clay that I can mold later. And then in a later draft, because, sometimes you write a scene that doesn't work, and then you have to kill that darling and excise it. And if I had all the time in the world, I could just write all the flowery prose I wanted and then take scenes out that don't work. But when I'm juggling so many things, if if a scene doesn't work, it's a lot less painful to cut a 1,000-word scene than a 2,500-word scene, because that's a difference of like an hour that I wasted on that 2,500 words. And so if I can get it out of my head onto the page as quickly as possible, then I have a lump of clay that I can go back and mold in the second draft.
I like that because, I think I'm pretty much the opposite. I'm writing out the whole damn thing, and only after I've written like 12,000 words, I'm like, oh, I don't really like this so much. Delete. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of that, one thing that I don't do is go back and read over the words that I wrote, because that's something that I hear from people quite a lot, is when they're not feeling stroked by the muse. They're not seeing the muse there, and they will say that they just wrote 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 words and that it's all crap and they're going to start over. And to me, the problem isn't those 3,000 or 4,000 words you wrote. The problem is that you went back and read over them.
Yeah, I could not agree with that.
I
more.
disagree.
No, yeah, but Dave, everybody who does it this way and is successful.
No, I'm going to say when I do it, when I'm deleting words, it's not because I don't like the style it's the story choices that I made. It's like something isn't working. It's not that, this isn't up to like my specific literary prowess. It's like this functionally does not fucking work and I need to get rid of it.
That maybe sounds like an outlining problem then.
Yeah, yes. Actually, the book that I'm writing.
Well, I'm half outline, half pants. Like part of the process for me is pantsing. I can't outline strictly. What's that?
Never mind. It was a joke that fell flat.
Timing, Johnny.
Yeah, sorry. It's all the squatty potty. I can't keep up. I'm in the middle of a book right now that is it's really hard. It's the most difficult time I've had writing, and it's
ever or just in a long time.
In a long time, but I've never felt more like I need to get the book out. So the whole idea of like the book is born in the second draft or editing, writing is whatever that is, where you have to get it out, and then once it's
you need a squatty typewriter.
Yeah, this is Johnny's Available Darkness 3,
where you need to actually just get the book out, and then you have something to work with rather than just continually having it in your head. Like this is the first time I've had to pay as much attention to that and believe in that as much as we tell people. But I actually agree with Jim and Sean on this. Shocking. But the reason, Dave, is because if something isn't working, there are times when it's definitely not working, but then there are other times where I just haven't discovered it yet. I haven't discovered the way in which that thing that didn't seem to work does work. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm now seeing where that came from a little while in the past, and I made it work. So that's kind of how I feel.
It's that it's not working for that specific story that you're thinking of, but there's something to be said for letting the story guide you, and whatever you're there, think not how do I erase what I've done, but how is what I've done trying to tell me something, and where could it go? And I also totally agree with Jim. You can fix a lot of these problems in the outline. Look at the difference between the project that we're working on now versus the project we just finished up, right? One, no outline, and we're winging it, chunk by chunk, versus a pretty robust outline. And it makes a difference. So I think there is a happy medium in there. Spend the time that you can on the outline, but also trust the story as you go. Get that rough out and fix things in revision.
One of the things that I do is I make pretty solid, in my beats, I pretty solidly outline plot and action. But I essentially pants characters. I might include like one line or two lines, maybe like look up a headshot on stock photo or something like that. But in my first draft, I leave almost all the characterization stuff out. Like all the dialogue sounds the same, all their actions sound the same, because I find it's a lot easier. Like if something's not working for me, it's usually a character, because characters make the story most of the times anyway. It's not really so much the plot, because there's only like a dozen of those in the world anyway. But if something's not working, it's going to be a character. And so that's what I'm doing in second draft. And that's how it goes from 30,000 words to 70,000 is I'm differentiating dialogue and I'm including extra descriptions of people, places, and things.
It almost sounds like your rough draft is super beats.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
You're framing the story with a lot of detail, but then you're going in and I mean, because that dialogue and character and rich description, like that's a lot of the narrative, right? So you're saying almost half of your book comes in the second draft. So do you have like a pre-outline and then beats and then your rough draft and then your big draft?
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. And so part of the reason for that 30,000 word first draft too is so that I can make sure that there's no logic problems, make sure that there's no plot holes. I mean, there are always plot holes that my beta readers point out to me, but if you get, say, 2/3 into, like if you're writing regular, if you're just writing a regular book, then your first draft is going to be 70,000 words. If you get 2/3 into writing it and you realize that you've inserted this huge plot hole that you're going to have to change huge chunks, that's no good at all, right? But if it's a lot shorter and then I can see as I'm going through it where there's structurally some problem, it's a lot less painful to change. And then I can still add in all those character details later,
Do you leave dialogue out of the first draft?
Well, not entirely, but it's like an example would be something like in second draft, it would say like, he walked into the room and observed the art on the walls. There were paint splatters, looked like they were done by some hipster monkey, and it would probably cost more than one of his paychecks. But in first draft, it's like he walked into the room and was annoyed by the art on the walls. And like there's a difference there between like 75 and 25 words, and it's the same intent. You know what I mean? Like I know in my head what's going to be in that second draft because I'm learning that character as I'm going along there.
How much of that is rewriting, Jim? Because it sounds like the way you're, like, to Sean's Super Beats point is, if you're describing it in a different way, and then you're coming in and saying it, and again a different way. How much of that first draft do you actually save versus how much do you entirely replace?
I generally keep like 80% of my first draft. I mean, most of it's there. Most of what I lose from that first draft will be replacing the crappy verbs with good ones for the most part. And that just comes through practice. I mean, early on, when I was still chasing traditional publishing, I was writing 12 to 15 drafts of something, and draft 10 was nothing at all like draft 2. But I've done this enough times now. I've published enough words that I have a pretty good idea. Even in draft 1, when I'm writing really fast, I know whether or not something's going to work.
Yeah, I used to leave a lot of like skeletons in my drafts. So anything that I didn't want to research right then or completely explain. So he walked into a room and it was busy, right? Explain that later. Or they ordered fancy things on the menu. Okay, take the time to actually think about what that is later because I want to get the story out, and I know that color could come in the second draft. I think we probably write a little similar.
Color is what gets me moving. Actually, I will lean on color because that'll get my momentum going.
Well, I make really heavy use of brackets too. One of the things I'll do, like if I'm writing a scene that takes place in a city I'm not very familiar with, I'll say I'm describing a car chase, and I'll say he turned on Brackett Street, because I don't want to take the time to tab out of Scrivener, to go to Chrome, load up Google Maps, look up that city, go to that street where I know it's happening, and find the name of the cross street. Because if I'm doing all that, it's taken me like 30 seconds to stop what I was doing to go to Google Maps.
Oh yeah, it's really wasteful. And
that's why I don't use real cities.
Well, and it's going to take me 90 seconds to get back in that right headspace. But if I just put brackets, because when I'm in first draft, I'm going as fast as fucking possible. And I'm using like a timer on my phone to time myself so I can record the number of words. And the brackets, I can always go back and fix that in second draft. And then I'm staying right there. And like I said, I'm thinking 6 paragraphs ahead. So I don't want anything to slow me down.
No, I think you have to, because I also don't, I think you're being generous with 90 seconds. I think it takes the brain way longer to find your spot back again. And so
just only watching videos of
it's
perfect and archers.
Right. It's risky. Stay with your copy as much as you can. But I think that's one of the things that really helps us with collaboration, because if there's something that is going to stop us, we can tag it for the other person and say, hey.
Now, something you said in your email to me was, I think you started to go down this path a moment ago, about the muse being insecurity. Can you explain that a little more, and how do you get over that insecurity?
So I think part of it is just Accepting that we all have that imposter syndrome. We all have that feeling that we're going to be found out and the other shoe's about to drop and all of our empires are going to crumble to dust.
My basement's going to be discovered.
Exactly. And so you need to take safeguards against people discovering what's in your basement. No, I think that part of that problem with the muse, that feeling that you can only be inspired when you write, is just that fear that when you actually do put words down, that they're not going to be very good. You know, like there's that saying about plumbers don't experience plumber's block. You know, a firefighter doesn't ever pull up in front of a fire and say, I just don't feel like I can fully commit to dousing this fire with water today. I don't think I could do it. I'm just going to go home and watch Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And so you have to treat it like a job, and that's not new advice. But I think, and like I said, the problem is reading over what you've written, because I all the time feel like as I'm 10, 15,000 words into a project that like, this probably isn't very good. My main character is shabby. His motivations aren't very clear. The twists aren't very believable. The action's not that great. But I don't go back and read over it. I don't stop. I plow ahead. And then almost all the time when I get to the end of it, and then I'll go back and read over it, it's usually much better than I thought. You know, I'll finish it, put it aside for a couple weeks and work on something else, and then go back to it and read it with a more objective eye. I'm not letting the muse, not letting that insecurity read it. I'm reading it just as a reader, and it's almost always better than I thought it was.
Dave, do you think you would be able to do that? To just, no matter what, not go back, to get through a draft from A all the way to Z, be done with it, and then go back and, okay, now I'm going to read this.
No.
Not even as an experiment?
For a short story, maybe, but not for a book with a lot of moving pieces. Because part of it is my limitations and my memory. Like I don't remember everything I think I do, and I'm like writing something like, oh shit, I got that completely wrong. And a lot of it is just like the first thing I think of when brainstorming, or even the second or third, is never ever as good as the stuff that comes later, ever.
Well, that's true.
Like if I went with Available Darkness and said, okay, well, you know what? I'm leaving that like it is, and we're just going to make it work, it would have sucked.
Which, the third one, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I mean, a lot of legit published authors. I mean, they write a lot of drafts for a book. I mean, I think indie publishing necessitates writing quicker. But
right, but I'm not even talking about number of drafts. You could do the same process and have 6 drafts. It's the idea of getting through the rough draft before you go back to let your subconscious just kind of guide you. It's a mindset more than.
Well, a lot of times I go back, like when I'm returning to the desk to write, like the next day, just to kind of remember where I was and kind of get in that mindset. And I think with better plot, with better plotting ahead of time, maybe I can do it that way.
I mean, that's it. We'll find out now. I mean,
yeah,
this will be our most thorough outline. Yeah, we'll find out. But I'm curious because I think that your subconscious is really, really good at knowing narrative and knowing story. And if you just pushed yourself forward through the draft, I think, yeah, there would be some things to fix, but I think there would be other unexpected things that happen as a result of that it's a different story perhaps than what you wanted to tell, but it couldn't exist otherwise.
Well, I think specifically with the thing we're writing right now, like there's stuff that I have to ask like law enforcement people I know about that I got wrong. Like some of the stuff that we talked about for our story meetings this week, it doesn't work like that in the real world, and that changes what I'm writing. It changes. So like sometimes the stuff you don't know, especially when you're writing something that's a little closer to real life like this is, the stuff you don't know could open up boxes that like kind of derail everything else in the story, and you got to figure a way around that. You got to figure a way to fix that. And just writing through a first draft and having mistakes like that can undermine the entire story, that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, but it's having the confidence that you can think your way around it. So do you know the movie Way of the Gun by chance?
No.
It's Christopher McQuarrie. Jim's nodding. Jim,
I think so. I think I've seen that.
Christopher McQuarrie is the guy who wrote Usual Suspects and then Valkyrie, and he's doing all the Mission Impossibles now. He does the Jack Reacher movies.
I know who he is. I'm not familiar with that movie though.
Okay, well, anyway, it came out in 1999, and it was supposed to be his big thing, but it never worked out. It had Ryan Felipe and Fenster from Benicio del Toro, and
that's why I didn't see it.
all right, and it's a heist movie, and in the script it says that they need to there's $15 million that they need to steal, and so Benicio del Toro asks Christopher, well, hey, how much does that weigh? And Christopher's like, I don't fucking know how much that weighs. Why do I need to know how much $15 million weighs? And Benicio says, well, because I'm gonna have to be carrying that. Like, I want to know how much that weighs because it's gonna affect the way I walk and all of that. And so he says, okay, and he figures this out that if it was mixed, 20s and 50s and hundreds and all of that, it would basically be like a van filled with money, like stacked to the right. There's no way you could carry $15 million. And then, what if it's all hundreds? What if it's all hundreds? Well, if it's all hundreds, because there's no $1,000 bills, so it'd have to be all hundreds, and that would be 3 giant like duffel bags. So then they had to rewrite a bunch of stuff in it because Christopher McQuarrie, once he knows this, he can't ignore it. And at first Benicio said, well, why don't you just change it so it's 5 million? It's just 5 million, and then that's much more reasonable. It's one big giant bag. He says, no, I like 15 million. We're going to stick with 15 million. But if you watch that movie, it's a plot point. They've got 3 bags that they're having to negotiate and decide, because now if they get shot and they have to drop one, they just drop $5 million. So it becomes part of the plot. Now, he never would have seen any of that coming if that mistake hadn't been made. And that's exactly what I mean. You have to be able to evolve with the story. It becomes a different story and maybe a better story, but your circumstances just kind of allow the story to breathe instead of having to control every moment of it.
Yeah, well, I'm not good with control. I'm giving it up.
So yeah, there's certainly something to be said for lower research books, and having a wide life experience, breadth of life experience helps. Anytime you have to stop to research something, that it just takes you out of your flow. It takes you off your schedule if you have to find out what the weather's like in New Zealand or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, interrupt people's conversations, like talk around it. That's the craft of being a storyteller, is navigating around what you don't know and controlling what the reader. I mean, you could still have the control.
We're writing a police procedural, and it's kind of important to get the procedure part right. I'm just saying.
Well, when it comes to that, there's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief you can count on readers having, and there'll be that one dude who gives you a 1 star who says, that gun safety flicks down, not up, but there's always going to be that one guy who's upset. But as long as you don't contradict something that most people would see on CSI or NCIS.
But that's the thing. Even those shows are full of shit. They're totally full of shit. And that's fine, because that's not what the viewer is wanting. They're not wanting a documentary. They're wanting entertainment.
Right.
And if you want to aim for a certain level of realism, I totally agree. And your world needs to agree. Your tone needs to agree. But I also think that Dave doesn't give himself enough credit for being clever enough to wrap. It doesn't mean the procedure stuff needs to be wrong, but you control where the camera goes. You control what the reader sees. 100%.
Exactly.
Johnny's all smirky. I want to hear what Johnny has to say.
I was just remembering
the pink smoke conversation.
No, I was just yes, of course, but I was remembering when you guys were having this argument before, and it was Sean goes, well, if you have a guy who's I'm making this up, a forensic chemist, you don't have to show him in the laboratory. He could be in the line at a bank. And Dave goes, well, yeah, but why the hell would you bother making him a forensic chemist if he's in the line at the bank? Like, what's the point? It's the most educated bank line ever.
And then, so Tammy in comments says, you can also repair any errors in second draft a lot more easily than you think, Dave. I really do mean that. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you have your whole entire word budget, let's say you have, 10,000 hours to spend on a book, Dave, right? You could spend that like rewriting the book 1,000 hours per time, or just getting through it, 1,000 hours and then going back 3 times. I bet getting through it that way 3 times is still going to be less time, and you'll have a really cool story. I'm just saying it's worth a try.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I like to have a fluency because that helps me with flow. If I have to, because when we were writing something, I think it was
The
LaFleur.
floor.
Yeah, Sean was like, well, just leave out the flower and the California stuff. And I'm like, it's harder for me to be in flow if I have to say, and then she walked into the store and there were flowers, and then she walked out and there was California stuff. Like I can't, the ability to like be able to give those specifics is what allows me to have flow. So I usually try to learn ahead of time and not stop in the middle, but a lot of times I don't know. I'm not doing it perfect either, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's fine if you've got the time budget to be able to do that. If you've got enough projects, if you've got enough of your catalog that's scheduled to come out, and you've got enough time to do that, that's great.
So how do you find time when, like you said, you've got a toddler, you've got a 40-hour-a-week job? How do you find the time to dedicate to writing when you have only so many hours in a day?
Well, yeah, right now I generally get about 45 minutes in the morning before everyone wakes up. I got about 45 minutes at lunch and maybe 45 minutes to an hour and a half at night after the kid goes to bed. And so that's, between 1.5 to maybe 3 hours a day. A lot of it is really making sacrifices. It's the unfun stuff, like I've deleted all of the tappy games off my phone. So when I'm standing in line at the bank or I'm at the doctor's office, instead of tapping on my phone for a while, I take my phone out and use mobile Scrivener to dash off 500 words.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of that.
Okay, fuck that. I can't type.
And no, I was just going to ask, like, what is your mobile? Because you've got a whole suite, right? If you're trying to capitalize on every moment, you've got apps, you've got systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use mobile Scrivener quite a bit, especially in first draft. It's not nearly as much fun to edit on mobile. It's kind of a pain in the ass to move your cursor all over in that. But I make really heavy use of Trello. Is a task management app where it's like a Kanban board. And so I have one for all the things I need to do related to my books, like, prepare the paperback version of this, get this off to the editor, contact the cover designer about this. And it's got boards that have like, do someday, do later, do next, do now, and already did it. And I move things from each board as it gets closer to when it's due. And then I have another board that's just for my book releases, or another set of boards, I guess. And I have another set of boards that's dedicated solely to my email list, because it's really important to me that I stay on top of that. Because I don't know if you've ever like sent out an email to thousands of people that had a bad link in it or something. Like it's no fun at all to do that. So I make sure that I'm on top of that. I know when things are supposed to go out. And I've got this stuff all scheduled out like 6 months. I've got a firm schedule for 6 months for like all my releases, my newsletters, and I've got a tentative schedule for a year. And so what were we talking about originally? Making sacrifices, right? Like I'm really behind on.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Your tentative schedule for a year, how allegiant are you to that? Like if you put a deadline, or here's the projects that I'm going to be working on, and here's the timelines, how likely are you to stick to that?
Pretty close. I mean, some things have come up, like I started writing content for this video game company, and that's taken up some of my time. And I've just had an opportunity maybe to collaborate with another author about a project, and so we're talking about putting that on the timeline. No, but it's someone who's been a former guest on your show. I'll say that. But so the next 6 months is firm. Like I have dates with cover designers, I have dates with editors, so I have to hit those deadlines. But the 6 months after that is a little more flexible. So I have a pretty good idea of what I should do, but it might change.
And have you so you're not writing full time yet. Are you looking forward to that moment that you can? And do you think that you'll be as disciplined once you have like a full day to just write, or do you think it's going to be easier to like just get distracted by your family and stuff?
Well, to answer your second question first, I most certainly would not be as productive. I mean, like there's been times at the day job I've taken a week off, just have a staycation and just to write, like if I was under deadline. And
you write less than normal, right?
Yeah. Like if I have 2 hours a day and I can write this much or edit this much in 2 hours, I'm not going to get 4 times as much done with 8 hours. But to answer your first question, I don't have any plans to quit the day job. I mean, I make a pretty good chunk of income from my writing, but it's kind of nice to have the 401k and the health insurance, the disability and the life insurance. And at least at this point, I don't need to quit the job to be able to produce a lot of fiction. You know what I mean? Like I've figured out how to write enough and write it fast that it's not a problem. I mean, maybe if I need to
like your day job?
more. I do. I like it a lot. Yeah. I mean, if I hated my day job, I might have a better exit plan.
And I think you're in an ideal situation because a lot of people write to us like when should I quit my job? Like I get that question a lot. And
do you like your job? Do you like your colleagues?
Right. I always want to say, hold on to that thing as long as you can, especially for insurance and stuff like that. These are things that become an issue when you are on your own. That if you are in a job that you don't absolutely hate, don't be in a rush to leave just because you think there's riches on the other side of the rainbow.
Exactly.
Life is made up of time. Spend it the best way you possibly can. And so if you love your job, then that's awesome. But if not, then be sensible. Don't jump off a cliff. Don't be stupid. Don't be a Sean, but make a good plan. I mean, and we've seen it all over. We've seen from woohoo, I had a great 6 months, I'm jumping in, to I had a 5-year plan and I've been sensible. And I think your place along that spectrum is different for everybody, but just know what your risk tolerance is, what your family's risk tolerance is, and all of that. Okay, so Jim, I imagine you have to plug and unplug sometimes here too. If your life is that chaotic, there's got to be times where you just aren't writing, right? Where it's like a 3 or 4 days and you break, or does that never happen?
Well, actually, so I use a goal tracking app on my phone with Jerry Seinfeld's productivity method of don't break the chain. And I have over 1,500 straight days of writing on that streak. But you see, for me, but I totally get it though. 1,500. That's like 4 years. But you see, for me, I love it. I don't ever get burned out on writing. I mean, and some days I might not be writing fiction. Some days I might be writing a draft of a newsletter, a blog post or something that's toward my author career. But I would say this for most people, I know maybe sometimes you do need to take a break. And what I would advise, if your day job's not going well, you and your spouse are fighting, your kids flinging poop like a monkey around the house, and you say to your spouse, hey, we just need to get away, go out to the woods for the weekend and leave our phones and our laptops. Yeah, leave the kid in the basement, leave everybody behind and go away for the weekend. And I totally get that and think that that's great for you to take a break to recharge. But what I would say is absolutely set a date for when you're going to get back to writing. Yep. Don't leave it nebulous, or you might just get back from that weekend in the woods and be like, oh, I'm kind of sore. I'm going to have a busy week at work this week because I took Friday off. But yeah, make a definite plan. And because I strongly believe in organizing everything and deadlines and not leaving things nebulous.
That's great advice. What's the app that you use?
The one I use for tracking is called Goal Streaks. Yeah, and so I track my writing on that. Have
you always been this organized, or is this something that writing has kind of forced you to do?
No, I'm a supremely lazy person. It's just that I love writing so much. But I've found there's times in my life when I've been forced to be really busy, and that's when I'm really productive. Like my senior year of college, I was working a day job then. I was working in a drug and alcohol treatment center as a tech, and I was taking 12 hours at school. And so I would get up at 6, go to the day job, get off at 4, go to class till 8 o'clock at night, do an hour of homework, and crash into bed exhausted. And I was insanely productive because I didn't have time to screw around.
It's interesting how that happens. You don't have time to screw around is a really interesting paradox, because most people more time, yay, I'm going to be really productive. No, not usually.
Yeah, I'm going to watch 3 movies today.
Well, yeah, it's we always expand to the time that's allowed, right? So if you have I don't know. I think it's building very simple habits and then just being accountable to yourself. And I'm kind of blown away by your streak. I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of humbling. If you miss it, are you going to go out on a crime spree?
yeah, yeah. Like, haven't you ever been really? Have there been days where did you just write and just like put your laptop down? I wrote because you were so sick or anything.
I mean, I don't write 3,000 words every day, but I do something. And now it's gotten to the point where I'm so indebted to that streak, I can't let it down. I just can't. Like,
I can't imagine. Like, okay, what about the day your child was born? When did you fit in those words?
Well, I may not have done anything on that day, but it's set to where, like, if I hit 6 out of 7 days, then I get credit for the whole week.
Oh, that's genius. Because that would piss me off. If I'm at like 900 days.
It would have the opposite effect. Like suddenly you no longer have any motivation.
Right. If I had 1,400 days and then I missed it, I would be fuck writing. It'd be fuck fish, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I did the writing thing for 4 years. Now, fuck it.
I'd be so. But that's perfect. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that Seinfeld productivity method. It's really great, and it's a way of building up an addiction. I'm so addicted to the streak now.
Do you want to explain that?
So, wise comedian Jerry Seinfeld was talking about. This was a long time ago. He talked about how he wanted to write every day. Like, I don't know if he was talking about just writing jokes or writing for his show.
Writing jokes. The only way he was going to get better. This was when he was doing stand-up.
Right. And so what he said was to get a very large wall calendar, like something that's massive that will go in your house or your apartment. And when you do the thing, whatever the goal is, you mark an X for that day. And then the next day you do it, you mark an X. And as you start to build up X's, then you make a chain through it. And so you build up a streak. And then the point is, don't break the chain. And so if you just Google "don't break the chain," there's lots of articles.
No, this is really funny. So you're putting Squatty Potty into Johnny's head and this into mine, because Dave and I had the same conversation earlier in the week, and Seinfeld is exactly who I was thinking of.
You won that exchange because I get Squatty Potty and you get productivity streak. Well, I guess you get streaks the other way.
X number of days and do this. And because Dave and I had some very lofty goals for all the things that we wanted to do with the Inkwell, and just realized if we broke them down into these tinier pieces, this is what the streak actually looks like. And I think that's great. And I love that you have if you have 6 days and you miss a day, it's still rewarding you. It's still rewarding you for your consistency, which means you can keep it up.
Yeah, there was a couple of years ago, my wife and I went to the Badlands, and we weren't going to have any technology. Like, we were backpacking, we were out in the wilderness. And so, but I knew I couldn't take a whole week off from doing anything. So I actually printed out the manuscript I was working on that time, and I made pencil notes throughout it, so I could make sure that I hit my streak.
Yeah, the other night, Cindy is super, super supportive of this, because I'm like big on streaks. Johnny, a couple of years ago, remember when we were traveling, I'd get the words in because I didn't want to break the streak.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I break them every weekend.
Yeah, now I've broken them, so whatever. But right now I have a streak going on. It's like 120 days now that I've had 10,000 steps every day. And in LA, Johnny was very tolerant with me because I'd get up at like 5:00 and go downstairs and walk, because otherwise I wasn't going to get my steps in. And then the other night, I just realized, oh my God, I only have like 9,200 steps. And it was bedtime. And so Cindy's like, okay. And for the whole episode of 13 Reasons, I'm just kind of pacing our bedroom, getting my steps in because I didn't want to break my streak. So I really think there's psychological value in that. And if you get to writing 53 days, then the 54th day is just, it's habit.
It's never dull to live with a writer. I'm just thinking of what all of our wives kind of probably go, oh.
Okay.
So one of the other things that I think you wanted to talk about was editing, cutting down editing costs, and how you approach editing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so first draft short, second draft is the hard one. That's filling everything out. And then third draft is the polished draft. And in between drafts 1 and draft 2, I'll always export the book out to Mobi and then send it to my Kindle and read it on my Kindle and make some notes. And usually after draft 2 is when I'm making notes for pacing. because if I'm going back and adding in that word count, I want to make sure that, the scenes aren't, because the scenes are all way too fast in draft one, because they're written short on purpose. So I want to make sure that they're properly fluffed up and have enough words. And then one of the things that I do, like I believe in professional editing, but I also believe in turning in as clean a manuscript as possible. Because if you don't, then suddenly your editor's 4-week estimate turns into 8 weeks and it costs you twice as much. Because, for me, I'm so busy, time and money are essentially interchangeable. So one of the things that I'll do, the last thing that I do before it goes off to the editor, is I will open it up on my Mac in Scrivener, and I will, if you just go to the top of some text and right click and do text to speech, and then it have the whole book read to me. Because I know that a common piece of advice is to read your work aloud, and I think that's great. But I think also when you're reading your work aloud, there's going to be a little portion of your brain power devoted to listening to yourself talk. And then still your brain will still insert words that you think it's expecting to find there. And then the other thing, so before I have it read to me, is I will go into my Mac settings and the text to speech settings and turn the pace down as slow as I can, like where I can barely tolerate it. So when it's reading through the book,
sounds painful.
It does.
It is painful. But the thing is, when it's reading that, then because it's so slow and so deliberate, I have no choice but to look at every single word as it's going by. And so I'm going to catch a lot of those typos, and I'm going to catch a lot of that awkward phrasing before it even goes off to the editor.
But if it's at a slower pace than normal, couldn't you read through it twice in the same amount of time and get like even more polished because you're going through the entire draft at an extra time?
Well, I mean, if I found for me when I'm reading through something, I'm still going to skip over stuff. I've done tricks like changing the font to something I'm not used to, and that makes it different. And then I'll see things that I didn't see there before. But having it read to me, I mean, at least for me, I found is just way more immersive, and it breaks my concentration more. And that's what causes me to then see the problems in it.
So do you see? Go ahead, Dave.
Well, when you hear an error or something that you need to change, do you make a note to change it and then come back, or do you stop right there and change it and then continue listening?
I'll usually stop it. So like a 60,000 word book takes me about 10 hours of it reading it to me. And then add in a couple hours of stopping it to go back and fix typos. I have a problem with form and from quite a bit. That one always gets me. So that's about a week in the process it takes me to do that. And I think it's worth it to maybe shave a couple weeks off the editing time.
And I think it's also worth pointing out that 4 books a year is an awesome feat. But thanks to the magic of the internet, it almost feels slow by a lot of people's perceptions of what is quote unquote required. And so just remember that whatever you may think, you out there in listener land thinking like, oh my God, that'll take too long. Maybe not. Like maybe there's no need to produce a book every 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, some people probably fine with producing less content. I want to put out as many books as possible to try to reward my readers. They're always asking for the next book. I want to try to produce as much content as possible and get it out there as quickly as possible. So maybe someday if I do decide to leave that day job, I'll have a pretty healthy backlist I can lean on.
Are there other types of writing that you want to get into, or do you just like writing novels and you want to just do that as many times as you possibly can? Like you mentioned video game writing, right? Video game writing, scripts. Are there other areas that you want to delve into?
Well, yeah, I'm enjoying this. I don't know if I can say the video game company, but it's like a chat stories kind of thing where it's just text conversations back and forth. And so I've been writing some of that, and it's really fun.
I think I know.
I've written screenplays before. It was a long time ago. I mean, like that's how I got into writing was basically like I had a roommate who wanted to write a screenplay. So I wrote one with him, and then, we didn't break into Hollywood, and I didn't want to move to Los Angeles. So that dream kind of got tossed aside, but I might, maybe turn some of my books into screenplays later on, but it's not a priority for me right now.
Now, one of the other things you mentioned was keeping a buffer of books to buy some emergency time. Can you explain that?
So I mentioned this a little while ago, I think, is that I've currently, we're recording this in mid-May, and I just released a book this week, and I've got another one scheduled for, I've got a box set coming out in June. My nonfiction book comes out in July. I've got the next book coming out in August, another box set coming out in October, and then another book coming out in November. And I'm currently I'm putting the finishing touches on the one that's coming out in November. So I'm currently writing 6 months ahead. Because if something were to happen, like maybe, I don't know, I got in a car wreck or something happened and I wasn't able to write for a little while, I would still be able to have a buffer of books that were published in advance. Like I get super anxious about things that are due tomorrow. I was never good with papers in high school that were due tomorrow. Yeah. And like when I did that novella with Jay Thorne, he didn't get me the link to the book until the day before, so I could tell my mailing list. And I was crazy anxious about it. Like, what if something goes wrong? What if Jay gets hit by a bus? That email's already scheduled. What do I do?
What if he has a guitar-related accident?
Yeah, that's where we are right now. Dave and I have been real diligent this year about getting 6 months ahead, so that when we go back, we know that we can have a rhythm and not have to worry about deadlines so much, because they're a little bit grander. Now it'll be suck if we lose our 6 month lead, but we are going back to publishing with that big gap in front of us. I think that's really smart. That's one of the things I think when you're talking about leaving your work also is having exactly that buffer so that you don't have to do the grind.
Exactly. A part of that is because I think at some point this year, I want to write a book that I won't be releasing. It's probably a book that I think I might submit it to Kindle Scout. And so that's not something I can put on the schedule because there are a lot of things that are out of my control there, like when it goes up on Kindle Scout and how long that takes. And if it gets chosen for publishing by one of Amazon's imprints, all that's out of my control. So I have enough buffer. I can play with that and not really have to worry about it delaying something else that I was planning on doing.
Well, what I love about this is it's all about pre-planning and knowing sort of what your habits are and building systems around them, I think is a good summary of everything that we've heard. So, well, thank you very much, Jim, for all of this. This was a great episode. The Juggling Author. Hold on, I feel like I need the subtitle here. Jim's book that's relevant to this discussion would be The Juggling Author, How to Write 4 Books a Year While Balancing Family, Friends, and a Full-Time Job. If you don't want to just get rid of them all like Dave. That's the full title.
Jim, do you have any...
It'll be out in July.
Do you have any plans to write an actual book about juggling for authors?
We'll see how well this one does, and then that might come after.
I'm going to write that one. I can juggle.
Can you really?
Mm-hmm.
I can too, but only scarves.
And you can find Jim at Jim Hescett. That's HESKETT.com and theJugglingAuthor.com.
And when you guys get squatty potties, you can all thank me. Just you can find me on my website to thank me for your squatty potties.
Think of Jim when you're using your squatty potty.
Yes, exactly.
Affiliate relationship. Maybe we can get your affiliate link to squatty potty.
All right, no more poo jokes? Okay.
I'm all tapped out.
And thank you for being on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome.
It was great to finally meet you. We've seen you in the comments so many times over the years. So,
all right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care.